Hi, my name's Michaela, and you're listening to the first ever episode of Sugar and Spite, a place where we tell the stories of female murderers. We'll talk about the hows, the whys, and the legacies that they leave behind. Warning! Today's episode involves murder, death, execution, infidelity, and mildly graphic descriptions of it all. Listener discretion is advised. Today, I'm telling the story of Paula Angel, the first and only woman ever to be hanged in New Mexico since it's become a state. With the case being so old, there is slight discourse over the details of it. Historians are unsure about her age, being anywhere from 19 to 27. They're unsure of her motive for murder, whether it be bloodlust or desperation. Even her name is up in the air, with a few reports calling her Pablita Martin. Here's what we do know. Paula Angel was a beautiful and by most accounts, virtuous Mexican-American woman. Sources claim that she likely wasn't wealthy, but she also wasn't a prostitute. Whatever she was, it is noted that she had many potential suitors, each of them promising to sweep her off her feet. However, she only had eyes for one man. Juan Miguel Martin was, by most accounts, a rich man. One that played with prostitutes and gamblers and was constantly adding notches to his belt. It was him that successfully won Paula's heart, sweeping her off her feet with charisma and a promise of chivalry. Of course, since it was the mid-1800s, Paula was expected to keep her petticoat on and corset strings tight no matter how much Juan Miguel pulled at them. Finally, he wore her down, promising her that since he was going to marry her anyways, why not just do the deed? Paula was deemed sinful and unclean by her family and society after losing her virginity. Her mother scolded her for giving away the one thing that gave her societal worth. What's worse, Juan Miguel still hadn't married her. When she found out that he had a wife and several children back home, she was rightfully furious. The rumor mill churned as people whispered about the affair. Would he leave his wife for Paula, or was she truly just another notch on his belt? There is also the theory that Paula knew and simply didn't care. To this day, no one's really sure. Regardless of whether she knew or not, Paula's reputation was soiled. Historians disagree about whether or not what happened next was desperation or callousness. On March 23, 1861, Paula met with Juan Miguel under the pretenses of clearing the air. They met in a shady part of town. Reports say that Paula was dressed in her Sunday best, a knife hidden in the folds of her skirt. "Will you marry me?" Some say that Juan Miguel said, "I will never marry a plaything like you," while others say that he simply told her no. Whatever he said, Paula didn't like it and plunged the knife into his abdomen and back as he tried to get away. Witnesses say that they heard him screaming for help. Paula was arrested the next day, and within 5 days she was convicted of murder and sentenced to hang till dead. Paula's case is a strange one, as women didn't kill without a claim of insanity or passion, and they certainly didn't hang. Some reports say that Juan Miguel's family bribed the judge and the jury to receive their desired eye for an eye outcome. Sheriff Antonio Abed Herrera was either incompetent, cruel, or both. Reports consistently say that he taunted Paula in her cell. "You have 3 days left to live. You die in 2 days. You're going to die tomorrow. I'm going to hang you till you're dead, dead, dead." On April 26, 1861, the citizens of Las Vegas, New Mexico gathered around the cottonwood tree appointed by the sheriff to watch the execution of Paula Angel. There were no gallows, and the crowd watched as she rode onto the scene. Some reports say that she was starved and emaciated from the stress of it all. They all say that her frail frame was seated atop her very own coffin. The sheriff tied the noose around a thick tree limb and put Paula's head inside. He then moved the horses. There was one problem. He had forgotten to tie her hands. Whether or not this was a cruel add-on to her punishment or simple neglect, the crowd watched with horror as Paula's body went into autopilot in a desperate attempt to save her own life. Several people from the crowd hurried to cut her down, releasing her from the noose. Tradition stated that a person that survived an execution was meant to live by the will of God. Herrera pulled Paula from the crowd and quickly strung her up again. Some sources say that the sheriff didn't care about tradition, while others say that he was simply carrying out the sentence of hang till dead. With much less enthusiasm, the crowd watched as Herrera bound her wrists and arms before slipping her head inside the noose again. The horses were moved, and Paula Pablita Angel was hung till dead. They say that to this day, the leaves on the cottonwood tree turn blood red in the fall. Paula's story didn't make the newspapers at the time, not when the Civil War had started just 2 weeks prior to her execution. It wasn't until 1961 that anyone knew about it. The story was published in the New Mexican after a reporter stumbled across the old legal files. There's so much he said, she said, due to the fact that a lot of documents are missing. There's even mild discourse about whether or not she was hung. Was she manipulated, or was she the manipulator? Did she kill Juan Miguel in a fit of passion, or with cruel intent? The world may never know. Paula's story is one covered with a layer of fog. One thing that the people do agree on is that she didn't deserve the death she was given. I'll leave you with some words from Juan Angel, Paula's poetic cousin, who wrote a folk ballad about her. To Las Vegas I was taken by the judge in his sternness. In the jail I was placed, surrounded by 1,000 fears, like a disgraced woman in the town of sorrows. The jurors judged me according to my crime. To death they sentenced me because I killed Miguelito. Goodbye, pious women. Those of you who know how to feel, look closely. Do not become entangled. Do not allow yourself to be seduced. Open your eyes. Do not desire a death like mine. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time when we talk about Dorothy Ellingson, a teen in her roaring 20s with a grudge.